Hello, hi, welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV screen to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well, let's learn English together. And welcome to all of you Easter bunnies. How are you all today? Are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Fantastic. Well then, let's get started. Let's pick up where we left off. We know half of what we need to know. So yesterday we learned what ingredients we need, the things that we're going to combine to make the hot cross buns. And today, it's time to learn the method, how we're going to make the hot cross buns. So, here we go. Are you all ready? Good. Well, off we go then. Okay, the first thing we have to do, apparently, is bring the milk to the boil. Okay, well, that means that we need to put the milk into a saucepan first. And how much milk do we need? Does anyone remember? Yes, that's right. We need 300 milliliters of full fat milk, not that watered down stuff. We need real milk with real fat. Okay, we also need 2 tablespoons extra, but that comes later. Okay, 300 milliliters of milk into a saucepan. And we need to bring the milk to the boil. Okay, so what does the verb to boil mean? Well, when we boil a liquid, we heat it until it starts to bubble and turn into a gas. Water, for example, boils at 100 degrees centigrade. Okay, so we know a few verbs connected to the idea of things changing form. Think about water again. When the temperature is less than 0 degrees Celsius, then water freezes. The liquid turns into a solid and becomes ice. If we heat ice and the temperature rises above 0 degrees centigrade, then the ice melts and turns into a liquid. The solid becomes a liquid again. Okay. Now, if we continue to increase the temperature and the temperature rises above 100 degrees Celsius, then there is another change. Now the water starts to boil and the liquid turns into a gas, into steam. Think about when you heat water in a kettle to make a cup of tea. When the kettle heats the water to 100 degrees, then we see steam coming out of the kettle. The water has changed from a liquid into a gas. Okay, so we know that if we heat liquids enough, they will boil. And this is what we have to do now. We have to bring the milk to the boil. We have to heat the milk in a saucepan until it starts to boil. We bring it to the boil. Okay, so we heat the milk until it starts to boil. Then what? Aha! We have to remove the milk from the heat and add the butter. Okay, what does remove mean? To remove is to take off. If I remove my hat, I take my hat off. When women get ready for bed, they remove their makeup. They take their makeup off. When we finish recording, Juji, the brush, takes my makeup off. Okay, so when the milk starts to boil, we take the milk off the hob, off the flat top of the cooker where we heat things. Okay, so we remove the milk from the heat and add the butter. Okay, then we leave the milk butter to cool down. We let the temperature drop. We don't do anything. We don't put it into the fridge or into the freezer. We just leave it sitting there on the kitchen worktop and we wait for it to cool down. we have to wait until the mixture is hand temperature. Well, that's going to be fun, isn't it? Put your hand into the milk and butter mixture until you don't scream with pain. Maybe we should get someone to help us. Anyone? Would anyone like to put their hand into some hot milk? No? Oh well, come on, be tough. Gods of English aren't scared of hot milk, I think. Okay, now while we're waiting for the milk to cool down, we put the flour, salt, sugar and yeast into a bowl and make a hole in the center of all the dry ingredients. Okay, now we have to pour the warm milk and butter mixture into the well, the hole in the middle, and then we add the egg. Now, we know the verb to pour, don't we? When we want to move a liquid from one place to another, we pour it. When we want to make a cup of tea, we put the tea bag into a cup and then pour hot water onto it. When we want to add milk to our coffee, we pour the milk into the coffee, normally from a jug. When we want to drink a glass of beer or champagne, we pour the beer or champagne from the can or bottle into a glass. Okay, now what? Now we need to mix everything together with a wooden spoon. When everything is well mixed, work the dough with your hands until it's sticky. Okay, so the dough is what will turn into the buns, or bread, or pizza. The dough is the mix of flour and liquid that we bake to make bread, or buns, or pizza. Okay, now that we have our sticky dough, we have to tip it out onto a lightly floured surface. So put some flour, not 23 kilos, just some flour, onto the kitchen worktop, and we can start kneading the dough. Now, the verb to knead means to work the dough with our hands. We move the dough about with our hands, mixing the dough. Okay, knead the dough for 5 minutes until it is smooth and elastic. Well, we know what smooth is, don't we? Smooth is the opposite of rough. A mirror is smooth, for example, and sandpaper is the opposite. Sandpaper is rough. Okay, now the dough is smooth and elastic. Now what? Now we put the dough into a lightly oiled bowl. Take a little bit of oil and wipe the inside of a bowl with it. Then we put the dough into the bowl and cover the dough with cling film. Do you all remember what cling film is? Cling film is that transparent foil that you can put on food to keep it fresh. Okay, so we cover the dough with cling film. Now what? Now we wait. Put the bowl in a warm place. The kitchen's normally a good warm place, and wait for the dough to double in size. This should take about an hour. Okay, now when the dough has doubled in size, we have to add some more ingredients. First of all, we have to take the cling film off. Otherwise, it's not going to work, is it? Okay, so take the cling film off. Then add the sultanas and the orange zest, the apple and the cinnamon. Now we have to knead the dough again to make sure that everything goes everywhere. We want to have all the ingredients in all parts of the dough. Now, after we knead the dough, we have to cover it with cling film again and leave it to rise again. Leave it for another hour. Now, finally, we're starting to get somewhere. Divide the dough into 15 pieces. You all remember the verb to divide, don't you? 100 divided by 2 is 50, correct? Correct. Okay, so we divide the dough into 15 pieces and then we roll the pieces into balls. Just roll the pieces on a lightly floured worktop. Again, we need some flour, not 23 kilos, and just roll the pieces until they turn into spheres. Okay, now put the balls onto 1 or 2 baking trays. Make sure that you put baking paper onto the tray first. Okay, put the balls onto the baking trays, but don't put them too close together. Remember that when we bake them, they'll expand. They'll get bigger in the oven, and then we could get 1 big hot cross bun, not 15 little hot cross buns. Now, when we put the balls into place on the baking paper, we need to cover them again, this time with a tea towel. Do you all know what a tea towel is? A tea towel is the piece of cloth that we use to dry dishes with. When we want to clean our dirty dishes, we do the washing up. We wash up the dirty dishes. Then, when we want to dry the dishes so we can put them back into the cupboard, we get a tea towel and dry the dishes. Okay, so now we all know what a tea towel is. Good. Okay, so cover the balls with a tea towel, a clean tea towel, and then leave them for another hour. Now, while we're waiting, we can turn on the oven and heat it to 220 degrees centigrade or gas mark 7. If your oven has a fan, then heat it to 200 degrees centigrade, not 220 degrees centigrade. While we're waiting for the oven to heat up, we need to prepare the crosses for the tops of the hot cross buns. So, who remembers how much flour we need for the crosses? Yes, that's right. The recipe says that we need 75 grams of flour to make the crosses. Mix the 75 grams of flour with about 5 tablespoons of water, but don't pour all the water in at once. Add the water a little bit at a time and stop when the flour and water mixed is a thick paste. Okay, now put the paste into a piping bag. A what bag, Gav? A piping bag. One of those funny bags with a big hole at one end and a small hole at the other. You know the ones, the bags you use when you want to decorate cakes. Okay, now after you put the mix into the piping bag, draw a line across the top of a bun and then repeat in the other direction to make a cross. Then, when you're finished with making crosses, put the baking trays into the oven and bake the hot cross buns for 20 minutes until they're golden brown. Now, there's only one thing left, the glaze. Heat the apricot jam in a saucepan, and while the jam is still warm, yes, once again we have to put our hands into something hot, brush the jam over the top of the warm hot cross buns. If everything worked out well, they should look like this. Can you see the shiny glaze? It looks great, doesn't it? Of course, if we make a mistake, then our hot cross buns will probably look like this. But even if they don't look wonderful, they probably still taste good. Okay, and that's all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I hope that you're all going to make some hot cross buns using the recipe we learned yesterday and today. Okay, once again, thanks for watching, and remember to tune in tomorrow. Same time, same place. Enjoy yourselves and remember to have fun. See you tomorrow. See you later. Bye.